My name's Tom Rose. I'm from Northern Indiana. In 2019, my whole life changed when I lost my wife to breast cancer. A few months later, somebody talked me into writing a book about my experience. And since that time, I've done 160. I'll be Monday, I think it'll be 167 speaking engagements with the book.
Welcome, everyone, to the One Moment Podcast with myself, Kevin, and we have our other co host, phenomenal older gentleman than I, Mr. Trev over here. And we have a phenomenal young speaker on our platform today. And he's probably the youngest of Trev and I both. Comes with a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and I'm not even going to introduce him. This guy, listen, I'm gonna let him do all the speaking for himself. So go ahead.
I guess. Well, my name's Tom Rose. I'm from Northern Indiana. In 2019, my whole life changed when I lost my wife to breast cancer. And a few months later, somebody talked me into writing a book about my experience. And I caught lightning in a bottle. And since that time, I've done 160. I'll be Monday, I think it'll be 167 speaking engagements with the book. Because of that, I got involved with senior organizations in our area and just started a podcast about a year ago called Senior Talk Michiana, which we cover all the counties in southern Michigan, northern Indiana. And we have a weekly show every Monday, and we talk about things that are important to seniors in our area, retirement communities, elder lawyers, all those kind of things. So and we keep it kind of loose like you do. We have a good time with it. And that's the same way with my speaking engagements. I talk about grief, but it's an uplifting thing. I make it an enjoyable experience. I explain to people that I'm not on a journey of grief. I'm on a journey of love, because without love, there would be no grief. You don't grieve for somebody you didn't love. So that's where I am in my life. And because of my book, Balloon in a Box, Coping with Grief, I thought I was an author. So I ended up writing a novel. My novel was called The Secrets in the Pasta. It was a murder mystery, took place in an Italian restaurant. And then I thought, well, hey, I might as well do something else. So I wrote a book of 10 short stories, which just came out. In fact, it won't be until actually Monday. It will be released on Amazon and on my website. It's called Damn It. It's just 10 short stories. And actually, the front of the book, I got to look at the front of the book to see what it says. It says a book of short stories, musings, commentaries to make you laugh and cry. So that's it. That's who I am. And I'm short. I'm 84. I think I said that. Got a beard. Live in a condo community area. I have a villa. Very nice place, open concept. My wife and I moved here back in 2003. So, and before that, when my wife was alive, back in from 1990 to 2003, we did a cooking show on the local Fox affiliate. Every Wednesday morning, we had Cooking Together with Tom and Joyce, and we did that for 13 years. And we stopped that in 2003 when we found out she had breast cancer. And so that's me. That's my life, I guess. And I was in marketing and advertising all my life. I've got a son and a granddaughter, and that's it. That's me. So short show, right? You're done.
We appreciate
No,
having you with us, Tom,
Yeah.
and looking forward to having this discourse with you.
Okay. So anything you want to ask, I may have an answer.
well, listen, I'd like to know one thing. Okay, probably the most important question of all questions ever, and I think Trevor would probably second this. Other co-hosts would second this, and I know Ruben would give us an answer if he was on board right now, but he's out for hip surgery. He's the Bionic Man, the new Bionic Man. We're going to have to do a movie about him.
Okay.
He's got, at least $1 million or $2 million worth of metal in his body.
Okay.
Okay. but you said that you're 84 years old. Okay. I am 35. Trevor's 54. I guess a lot of people want to know, when you look at psychosocial, Eric Erickson talked about the psychosocial stages of change. One of his stages, he speaks about how, the older we get, the more we, when we get into the older stages to the where it's, the last stage or two, our main focus our main focus in life is, what are we giving back to life? What have we done? What have we, are we happy about the stuff we've done? Do we regret anything? So what would you like to say to the younger population as it relates to, maybe life, getting older, things like that?
One of the things I'll preface what I'm going to say with, because this is where I learned this. Okay, uh, when my wife died in 2019, that the 3 weeks before she died, she was in hospice in the hospital. I was there 24/7. I slept in that lounge chair, which you can't sleep in, by the way. Um, and I couldn't do anything but hold her hand, feel her pain, and think. Now, when you spend 14, 15 hours a day just thinking, a lot of the things change. Well, don't change. You discover a lot of things, okay? You discover that you're selfish. Everyone's selfish. We think we aren't. We make excuses. We say, oh, we did that because of, and when a bottom line, get right down to it, we did it for us. I questioned all my beliefs. I didn't change any of them necessarily, but I questioned them. One of your things about the regrets and uh, those things all come up, and uh, in order to get through grief, you got to push those behind because you can't do anything about those regrets. I always tell everybody, my wife died in August of 2019. In October of 2018, like I say, I live in this village, and the golf course is to our left out here, and the cemetery, which is beautiful with all the trees, is on the right, and that's where we always walked. And on Sunday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, she came and said, "Let's go for a walk." Beautiful afternoon. Trees are all changing reds, and. And I said, "Nah, I want to watch the Bears play football." Now, a year later in October, she's gone. I'm sitting there in the same room watching TV, watching football, and it all came back to me. I wish I'd have gone on that walk. But I can't dwell on that because I can't come back and do that. I mean, I can't change that. So that's what I kind of help tell people when I'm talking about coping with grief. As far as the young thing goes, one of the things that happened to me um, before her death and before I took grief on and began to think about grief and began to think about life, I don't think I noticed people's pain. I don't think I noticed people's concerns. I could walk by somebody and look at them, and now I give a speech, and there's 30, 40 people, and I look out and I look at their eyes, and I see the pain, I see the grief, I see the things that they're feeling, and I feel them when before I wouldn't even notice. I told you my wife and I did all this cooking. We always had dinner parties, which I still do. And I was doing a speaking engagement at the local theater, which was a beautiful place, totally redone. There were about 300 people in the audience. And I was standing backstage waiting to go on. And I had a dinner party a week or so before. And that dinner party, a couple of bottles of wine, and 8 people, and you're sitting around the table, and then you end up starting to talk about what is life. And you're not going to get anywhere. 2 hours later, you're the same place you were when you started, but some empty bottles of wine. Anyway, I'm standing backstage, and I looked around, and I thought, this is the theater where I bought my first date. The one where mom drives you, and then you go to the drugstore afterwards and call mom to come pick you up. And I thought, wait a minute, I know what life is. Life is really simple. Life is moments in time and experiences that become memories. That's your life. So that was kind of came back to me then. I'm thinking, yeah, that's what I did. I sat there and I thought about all the memories, all the experiences, all the things. Now, I understand that may be life, but living life is a little more difficult because then you throw love in there and all those things and it becomes complicated. But life simply is that. It's those those memories that you created, good, bad, whatever. But that's what your life is. Um, and so my balloon in a box thing here is that someone had told me grief was like a ball bouncing around in a box, and when it touched the side, a memory came back or an emotion. When it touched the corner, that was tough because then we get two or three emotions going on, hard to handle. And I said, it's more like a balloon in a box because a balloon's a little harder to handle and to control. I mean, you go to the left and the balloon may go to the right. And so that's where I came up with, well, the balloon. And the balloon, she's with me right here, the balloon, tied to my finger. All our memories are in this balloon above me. Um, the other thing that was tough for me, the first 4 months I called my black period. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't care about anything, blah, blah, miserable. Um, and I had my epiphany one night, and that's another long story. Um, and started to take grief on. And I realized when I did that, my fear was leaving her behind. I couldn't do that. I couldn't leave her behind. So it's been almost 6 years now. If she was I wish she was sitting here beside me. If she was sitting here beside me, I wouldn't be talking to you, and I'd never written a book, so none of this had ever happened. But I am content. I have accepted. Well, her favorite saying would always was, "It is what it is. Put on your big boy pants and deal with it." So that's kind of what I've done. I put on my big boy pants and I've dealt with it. I understand it. I'm content. I'm satisfied. I'm relaxed in my life. I don't have any pensions. I don't have any of that stuff. If I don't wake up tomorrow morning, I hope not because I want to do my 2 podcasts tomorrow morning. But I've had a good life. I had a great son, granddaughter, great friends, and had a great wife, great life. 58, almost 58 years. We missed 58 years by 2 weeks. So if that helped, I'll tell you what. When you said a young person, here's what happened. About 2 years ago, it was about 2 years ago. Got a call one night, and it was a young gentleman. He said, "Mr. Rose, I wanted to thank you for your book." And I said, "Oh, well, thank you for calling me." And you are. And he said, "Let me explain." He said, "I'm a college student, senior." This was in August. He said, "I'm a senior, about to go back to school, and I have a relationship with a woman, and we're thinking about getting married when we graduate." And he said, "The other night at dinner, I just asked my mother, how do I know I'm in love? And she gave me your book to read." So if that answers your question going back a half hour ago when you asked it about youth and stuff, that's what I think I've been able to do. I've been able to share, those things. So that's it. Next question.
Well, we sure appreciate your answer, Mr. Tom. Um, I guess one of my biggest questions is that how did you how did you actually begin to recognize that you had to go through the process of going into your grief? How did you begin that process?
Okay. I
Was it
said
a
the first.
memory or
No, it was a little harsher than that. Okay. Um, I said I have 4 months in my black period. Um, so she died in August. This was the 1st of November. If you could picture my house there, it's a big open concept, then kitchen and big counter with bar stools and dining area behind it and fireplace and all. So it was in November, early November. It was a cold. In fact, I think it was sleeting or snowing or raining outside. It was a miserable evening. And I was sitting having my dinner. Now, when I was in college, I was in theater arts, and I had remembered a professor one time had made us write a scene for a play. He said, write it for the stage for a play, and you have to write it for a movie. The same scene, but you have to set it up. So I remember doing that. So I picture this now, looking back on it. This would have been a great movie scene because you picture this little old man sitting at the counter with his dinner, his bottle of wine, his glass. Frank Sinatra's playing on the stereo. The fireplace is going, and the sleet and snow's hitting the windows. Okay, now you can pan the camera around. You can do great. I got up, I think, to walk over to change the stereo. I caught my foot on the bar stool beside me, and I fell, fortunately, into the living room on the carpet. And suddenly I thought what I had said earlier. My wife always said, put on your big boy pants and deal with it. And I thought about that, and I thought I don't think to that point I'd cried. Oh, maybe a few little tears at the funeral and those things. But I hadn't cried. I cried, man. I sobbed. It came out in buckets. I had sat there in the chair and I thought, oh my God, it's going to be miserable in the morning. I finally managed to get to bed. But I got up the next morning and there was color and there was sunlight. And I knew for some reason I had to take grief on. Now I have to say, early on, I kicked God out of my life. I said, get out of here. You didn't help me do what I wanted, I said, I think I probably need you back behind me because I'm going to take grief on. And that's when the whole balloon in a box, ball in a box. And I thought about all that. And I thought, okay, this is how I do it. And so I just stepped forward and started doing it. Started taking it on one thing at a time. And I call that night my epiphany. When it finally came to me that you can't continue this way. You'll die right here in the rocking chair in the living room. So, and that's when everything changed. And I've had people tell me that they've gone through the same thing. That's the other thing I tell people about grief. I don't know either one of you experienced grief, deep grief, but I tell everybody it's the same for everyone, only it's completely different. Now that doesn't make any sense, but that's really true. Somewhere along through the grief process, you go through all kinds of different things, but you don't go through them necessarily in a sequence. Okay, um, I got I it was probably 6 months after she died. Anger came. I got up one morning and I was angry and I kicked the chair and I cussed at her and I cussed at God, and then the rest of the day I had to go around and say, "Hey guys, I'm sorry," but my leg still hurt from kicking the chair for about 2 weeks. So, which I'm sure she was laughing at because my wife was a zinger. She liked to zing me all the time, so that was her favorite thing to do. Yeah, I'll give you an example. I told you about our cooking. We were standing in the kitchen one night after dinner and we were cleaning up. We got to talking about mistakes we'd made in our life. She got hung up on some mistake she'd made. It was incidental. Yeah, and she kept going and going. I finally said, Joyce, sooner or later you have to embrace your mistakes. A couple minutes later, she walked over, gave me a kiss on the cheek and a hug, and walked out of the room. Now you're not thinking. I looked out and there she was, big smile on her face. She zinged me. She embraced her mistake. She got me. So those were the kind of things, she'd come up with. I asked her one time, we went out to dinner for what's one of our anniversaries, and just the two of us having dinner, and I said, Joyce, why did you marry me? She said, because I thought you were funny. I said, oh, I was hoping it was because I was a great lover. And she said, you are funny, see? So, that was our life, okay? I suppose people from the outside looking in would say, how do those two people ever, get along? So, but that was the way, still going on. So that's where I am.
Good.
Does anyone else have that one tool that makes building a website a breeze? In an era driven by digital change, WebHash is the indispensable tool that holds the key to effortless website creation. Create websites that endure, defy censorship, and bypass any single point of failure. As cutting-edge technology redefines reality, seize the power to build beyond limits. Join the Web3 revolution now and forge paths others can only dream of. Visit our site today and build your legacy. Building my own space on the web was always a grind until I hit up WebHash. Their no-code builder is my ace. It's swift and solid. It's like rocking a digital fortress that's immune to the typical shutdowns. Level up your web presence without stress. Ready to stake your claim in the digital realm? Dive into WebHash today, connect your Web3 wallet, and get started. They have multiple subscription plans, from a free version to a lifetime subscription. Check them out today at webhash.com. Most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast, helping to raise awareness to critical topics in the healthcare field. Our official website was built using the WebHash platform. Throughout the projects that the One Moment movement built on WebHash, they stood behind and supported it all the way. Sign up and start building your website today. Don't forget to visit onemoment.chain.box and subscribe to our social media channels.
Wow, that was beautiful. So what? I've met with people personally and professionally who struggle with grief, right? And it's almost like a stuck point, right? Like they're stuck. They can't seem to get over it, and they think that, oh, if I do anything to heal, then I'm just going to forget about this person. I'm going to forget about that. And you, as you just said, that's not necessarily true. So, and then you have a lot of people who also don't know how to get through grief, don't even know what it looks like. So my question to you is what was that process like for you as far as going through that grief? And maybe even like, how did you know that, maybe you had unburdened, and I say unburdened, I don't know if that's the right word to use or not, but, kind of like tackled, for the most part, grief?
Well, number one, first of all, as a griever, okay, you have to understand it's not going to go away, particularly with losing a spouse. It's there forever. Okay? You're gonna deal with it forever. Now, I think what I learned to understand was, and it probably writing the book probably was the key. I learned that in order to take grief on, the griever has to do three things. They have to think of the words, okay? To write the words down. They have to say the words. That's why journaling is so great. For a griever to get up in the morning and write down how they feel, and at night write down what happened. Journal, write it down. So write it down. Then you have to say those words. And see, the book gave me the opportunity to say my words. And then, most importantly, you have to know those words have been heard. So that made my road a little smoother, probably, because that happened to me. I was able to write. I wrote the word down in the book, and people read it, and then I went to speaking, and then I was saying the words to them. And what I always tell people is that when I do my presentations, I hope that I can't change their journey. Okay. That's the other thing that I tell people. Please, if you have somebody that's grieving, don't try then fix it. You can't fix it. Just listen to them. That's all I wanted anybody to do. My heart was breaking. Just listen to me, So I say, well, maybe my book, maybe my speaking engagements, maybe with these things that I'm saying and I've gone through, maybe I can make your road a little. Maybe I can take a few of the potholes out of it, take a few of the bumps of the road out. But you're going to go on the road. You got to take the trip, and it's going to be a forever trip. But maybe I can take a few of the bumps and potholes out of the road for you. Maybe when all of a sudden one of those things happen, you go, wait a minute. I heard Tom say this. Yeah, he's right. I believe. Oh yeah, that's what I should do. The regrets thing. I facilitate some grief groups for some senior organizations, senior retirement communities. And one of the things I always do is, well, two things, particularly if they've lost spouses. We don't have a plan. We don't have videos. We don't have things to read, but we're just going to talk. That's all. We'll get a group of 6, 8, 10 people. We're going to talk. I just guide the conversation, just get it going. One of my things will be, I'll say, tell me about your first date. And every time I say that, I get smiles on their faces, they think about their first date. Now, that's a pleasant experience, or it was a funny experience. And then they share. And some are funny stories you get. And then we do a weekend where I always say, okay, we're going to do this one day, one time, and that's it. We're going to talk about our regrets. We're going to go around, everybody tell me your regret. And they do, and I always bring a box of rocks, river rock. And I give one to each person, and I say, put your initials on that. Hold that rock and tell me your regret. When you're done, put that rock in the basket right here. Now, when I go home, I go over a river, and those rocks are going in the river, and that regret's gone because you can't do anything about it. It's gone. It's done. I told you mine because I have to tell mine in my presentation, but mine's gone, okay? It went in the river with the rock. So you have to get rid of those things, and then you have to begin to level things out to your pleasant memories, to your fun things. Oh, I remember this. I just said, I remember her zinging me like this or zinging me like that. I remember our vacations. I remember when our son was born. I remember when our granddaughter was born. I remember going and my granddaughter graduated from college. With my wife, almost experiences we had. So those are the things I remember. I don't remember, and we had our tough times. I don't remember the financial crashes, that we thought would destroy our lives. I blocked that out. It's gone. It's done. I can't do anything about it. But I don't want to think about it. I want to think about that graduation in college where we went and my granddaughter and all the party in the restaurant and the whole thing. That's what I want to remember. So that's kind of what I tell people. You gotta work on it. It just doesn't come naturally, and it's not easy. And if you think it's going to be, then you're going to be in more trouble than than you're in the start, because it'll get you down. I've been 6 years. I still have my moments. I still those moments usually come in the evening when it's time for dinner and I'm sitting at the counter by myself, and that's when I wish he was there. That used to be our time. 5 to 7 o'clock in the evening was our time to talk. What'd you do today? How was your day? If I played golf, you want to know about everything about golf. I'd want to know, from lunch, from the girls, who's what, and who's going to be a grandma and all this kind of stuff. I miss that. And so it's been 6 years and I still miss it. I'm sure I will the rest of my life. But again, it is what it is. And you have to learn to deal with it. And like I said, it's not easy. You have to concentrate on grief like you concentrate on anything else in your life. You concentrate on learning a skill or something, or concentrate on reading. That's how you have to approach grief too. You have to concentrate on. You have to say, I am going to face this. Not sure how sometimes, but I'm going to face this. And when that balloon lets one of those memories out or touches something, that's unpleasant, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to handle it. So, like I say, that it's a matter again of concentrating on, like anything else. My story.
Well, that's really good, because the personal experience is really the most important part to me as well. And I guess the reason I asked the original question was, how do you begin the grief, is because I've experienced a loss in my life that were the three most important people: was my dad, my big brother, and my baby brother. And
Yeah.
one was 2002, who was my baby brother. Then in 2013 was my dad, and then 2019 was my big brother. And we were only 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day apart. So I had to kind of answer the inside parts of me, in the sense that I knew there was nothing I could do about any of it. And especially when I had to go identify my older brother's, body from a motorcycle accident. Um,
Oh.
so it was really difficult for me. And I can't say that I haven't processed the grief, because I was emotional, and I just knew that I couldn't let that kind of stuff burden me down to be able to keep continuing to going on. So even so, that the reason I asked you the question about where do you begin the grief is because I don't know necessarily if there's the proper way, but I wanted to make sure that I at least express to you that the grief that I have gone through, um, most of the time I'm able to let go of that. But other times, like you said, memories
Yep.
come up. At the times that we had together, the things that we've done together, the pictures of them. Sometimes I still get caught up in that, and get a little bit emotional here once in a while. But I like the idea that, for someone to go through the grief on their own, and to be able to write a book about it, and another, to get involved is a really powerful thing to help you. And so it's a really good example. And from my spiritual sense of things, we're supposed to respect our elders. And my the best things in my life that I learned was from my grandma and grandpa. One was born in 1917, and the other one was born in 1913. And those two people were the matriarch and the patriarch of the family. And once Grandpa died, everything changed. The family's been kind of dissipated, but we still keep in touch. Not as much as we possibly should, but most of the times it's either weddings or funerals. And so I
Yeah.
don't know if I don't know if they're still
Understand that.
I don't know if they're still not dealing with grief from when Grandpa died. And this is all we're talking all the way back to 1987. So I think that I did a good job with dealing the grief for my dad and my brothers, because they were the closest people in my life. That always had been, and all of a sudden they're gone. Uh, and so, you know, I like the encouragement that you're able to give other folks, so that they know how to handle it. It's a pretty
Are you
amazing thing.
are you active on the computer?
No,
You type.
no,
Oh,
I not
well, you
not
don't do
very.
computer.
No,
You
you
don't have
better
to.
start telling the truth, man. We're all over social media, so tell this young man the truth.
Well, no, I'm not on a computer.
No, but I mean,
I'm on a stupid cell phone.
okay, but okay,
Same difference.
yeah, but
I
I want to
I
tell you, I'm going to help you. Okay,
okay.
this is what I do.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have that one moment where everything feels too overwhelming to handle? Fortunately, there are therapeutic resources where you will learn the skills necessary to bring clarity and focus amidst chaos, making everything feel manageable again. At Mindfully Me Counseling, we guide you towards clarity and calm with personalized therapy. Embrace your self-care today. Visit mindfullymecounselingplc.com to learn more. We sponsor the One Moment podcast. They meet weekly to discuss critical topics related to mental health, raising awareness on various topics such as substance use, suicide, trauma, family, and more. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about the podcast and to be connected to additional resources. Subscribe to their social media channels for more information.
I write. Okay, if, for example, if tonight I'd have dinner, and after dinner I get a little down. I'd come in and sit down at the computer and I'd write Joyce a letter. I'd say, guess what I did today? I was on this podcast with these two guys, and I would tell her about my day. Okay? I'd write her this letter or email, how I want to do it. I don't post it. I don't do anything. In fact, I usually trash them all. I say those, so I get those things out. So that's the thing. You can write a letter to your brother, write a letter to your dad, write a note to your dad. Say, hey, Dad, guess what? I met this old fart today. That 84 years old. Man, did he have all this BS he gave us? Do those kind of things, and that will help you. It really does. It helps me anyhow if I do it. Just to say, okay, get it out again. Find the words, and then by writing them, you're saying the words. So,
Okay, and I should be pretty
and if
good
you
at
want
that because I'm a grammar guy, like
to, okay,
real grammatical, and so I
there
heard
you go.
I heard the idea that you'd said that had written a book, and I go back to my younger self, and there are many times where I thought maybe I should write a book, but I don't know how
Yeah.
to go about it or anything like that. But I'm not saying I'm going to go
Well,
do that right now, but it is something that I could really, maybe I could develop that on my own as well, and it will help deal with the grief that I have.
that's right. If you, and again, my experience, I sat down when actually what happened was like I say, my wife died in August. We got through the holidays, and it was after the holidays. My fraternity brother of mine from college called me. He's a doctor, retired. But anyway, he called me and wanted to know how I was doing and all that stuff. And he wanted to know if I was journaling. And I said, yeah. And he said, send me your journal notes. And I did. And he called me back about a week later and said, you have to write a book. I said, wait a minute, Doc. You were with me in college in English class. I didn't pay attention. You didn't pay attention. That's why you're a doctor. No, no, no. He kept on me, and got my son on me. So finally, we were talking, it's COVID year, but I can't go out. I can't do anything. So I might as well write a book. So I remember sitting down right here at this computer, my little glass of wine here by 8 o'clock at night, miserable weather outside, northern Indiana. So we're talking January, February, miserable. So I start in, and you said the grammar. That's what brought it to me, because I would write a sentence, and then I'd make sure it was constructed right, and then I'd make sure the three sentences made a paragraph, and then everything. I get done, and I have a perfect page, right? Grammatically, a perfect page. And then I'd look at it and say, okay, you're author. You use big words, so get the thesaurus, and you start changing words, right? Get up the next morning and look at it and go, what the heck? Who wrote that, and what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? I did that a couple times. Finally, one night, I got the same thing. I had a little couple of glasses of wine, and I had a little more, and decided I'm just going to write it like we're talking. So I just started typing. I didn't worry about commas or periods or capitals. I just did it. And all of a sudden, it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had page after page after page. So now I had the basics to build the book. I went and took my journal notes and that, and then, some research and some things on, and that's how the book came about. But that basic thing, that I don't know how many pages I did that night, probably about half the book. uh, but that got me started. So if you want to start it, that's the way to start it. Don't try to be grammatically correct when you're doing it, because you can't think that fast. Okay, get it out. Get it out of here onto paper or into the computer.
Gotcha. I appreciate that.
Okay,
That's great advice to me.
and even if you don't publish it, see, I didn't plan I'd publish it. What happened was I did it and I read it and I thought, well, that's not too bad. I was in the advertising marketing business. So I'll get a couple hundred copies printed and give some away, and you know. And my neighbor talked me into giving a talk on it at a Kiwanis club. And like I said, here I am 167 speaking engagements later. And then I wrote the novel, and I thought, I'm not going to self-publish that. If I don't get a publisher, I'm not publishing it. Well, I got a publisher on the novel, and he wanted the balloon in a box book. So he said, I don't want you to change it. Just write at the end of each chapter what you've learned over the last few years. So that's the way that all came about. So,
Good. That's a
and
good
like I
format.
say, it amazes me. I'm sitting here talking about going, this is not really true. I'm making this up. No, it's true. You know, so
Yeah, dude.
I've been so lucky in my life, I guess.
Well, I think you've uh, had a lot of rich experience um, throughout life, and that's why I'm glad that you are on here, because we get to dig more into grief. We get to talk more about grief, something that I don't feel like is discussed as much as it needs to be discussed. Um, I think there needs to be a lot more discussion on it, and I do think also there needs to be more research in grief, um, because I hear so many people talk about, oh, let's look at the 5 stages of grief: anger, sadness, this, that, and the third.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. There's a lot of folks that I've worked with and met, and they will look at me and be like, "Dude, it's not my experience, right?"
no, that's right.
But yet a lot of therapists, social workers, medical providers, clinical providers alike, they their first go to is, "Oh, I'm gonna give you these 5 stages of grief. Let's talk about these 5 stages of grief." No,
That's right.
no. For my clinical practice, when I work with folks with grief, I rarely ever bring up the 5 stages of grief anymore, because I found that it's more subjective. But what I have found to be very efficient, very effective in working with, from a clinical perspective, is existentialism. And Viktor Frankl is my go-to clinician for that, or psychologist. And it's about finding hope and meaning. And I will always take people back to, let's look at that relationship: good, bad, pros, uglies, indifferences, non-differences, neutrals. Let's look at everything and let's see what we can find that we can take away. Right? You can have an overall meaning. You can have a circumstantial. With this circumstance, I learned this. This situation, I learned this. Where let's dig a little bit more into this hope and meaning and purpose in this relationship, right? And I have found that to actually be more effective, rather than, oh, let's talk about anger. Let's talk about this. This is why you're doing this. This is
That's
why
right.
you're doing
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Some people I've talked to never go through anger, never have it, never get angry. Uh,
Yeah.
so now if you start telling them they're going to get angry, then they're going to think, well, why didn't I get angry? What am I doing wrong? And
Yeah.
one lady told me that. She said, I got all these stages of grief, and she said, I haven't gone through some of them. What am I doing wrong? I said, you're not doing anything wrong. You don't have to do that. Um, yeah, and God bless them. I'm not saying they're wrong. I was much smarter people than I am. Okay. I am only talking about grief because I lost my wife. I lost my love. And I know what I experienced. I know what I feel, and I know how it has affected me and what I've done.
Well, no,
So
and that's where it should be. It should
yeah,
just be
well,
subjective.
yeah, so these. I mean, I go to. I had a church. I go to a lot of churches to speak. And I had one call me and say, "We have this grief share. I don't know if you've heard of it. Grief share. It's a program that churches have that they go. It's got videos and brochures and everything. And I went and I spoke to them, and they said, "Well, what do you think of the grief share program?" I said, I'm not going to be critical of the program. I said, quite honestly, from my perspective, what has happened to me, I'm not sure that I needed a video on the screen to show me this is what's going to happen to me. I said exactly back what we said at the beginning. Somebody needs to listen, not talk to you, but listen to you. That's what grief's about. So to get 20 people in a room and show them a video on all this stuff and not really allow them to share or minimum share. Number one, 25 or 30 people is too many. You need to be 8, 10 most. Um, See, that's what I found out again at a retirement community going. And these people, some have been living there for a year or 2 years together and really didn't know each other. Got together in a grief group And what I do with my grief group, I facilitate it for about 4 to 6 weeks. And there's always a leader you can find in the group. And I walk away and they keep going. They keep they become friends. Once you share those intimate feelings that you had with your loved one and your loss, you become friends. And so these people become friends. Now they have a core group that they can lean on when they need to. I can go and have lunch and say, I had a rough night last night. I woke up in the middle of the night and this is what I was thinking. And somebody can say, well, I understand that. And then you feel like, oh, I'm not the weirdo. Somebody else has experienced the same thing. So that's as far as I'm concerned, that's what it's all about. Not fixing it, just listening and understanding. The worst thing we do is we go to that funeral home and we have that visitation. Okay. I don't know how you guys are, but I stand there in that line and go, oh, what am I going to say when I get up there? Oh, he was a nice guy when maybe he really wasn't. And I know I stood there. We had, I don't know, 400 and some people go through. And the things I heard, the things that were said to me that I think about afterwards, why would someone say that? In fact, I told my son about halfway through, standing beside me, I said, if one more person comes up and says, how are you doing? I'm going to hit him. I'm going to smack him. He said, Dad, you can't do that. I said, but how do you think I'm doing? I always tell people, just walk up and say, I love you. Give them a hug. When you say I love you, you say all the things. I'm here for you, Mom. You don't need to, I had a lady come up to me and say, oh, Tom, well, I was 78 when my wife died. She said, you're only 78 years old. You'll find somebody to share your life with. I thought, oh, my God, lady, my wife's right here, Yeah, you get some of the really weird ones, I had somebody come up and say, I know a man that lost his mother, father, and his wife all in the same month. I'm going, that's supposed to make me feel better because he lost 3 and I only lost 1, What's the logic here, And there are people that mean right, but they just don't know what to say. So I just say, honest to God, hey, come, if you say I love you, or just walk up and give them a hug and walk away. They'll know. They'll understand. Uh, I I I do. I don't remember the funeral. I'm Catholic. A funeral mass. Hour and 15 minutes. I think they do that in preschool. Hour and 15 minutes is what the funeral is going to be. But and she was going to be cremated, so there's no service at the cemetery. So of course there's the typical church funeral dinner. In fact, I ask in my speak, I want to know where in the Bible it says there's supposed to be a green bean casserole served at the funeral dinner because there always one there. So it must be in the Bible someplace to have one. But I remember going to the funeral dinner, and then we came back at my house. I have a big deck back here, and looks out over the golf course and over the cemetery. And all my friends and family, and bottles of wine and food. It was all of a sudden it was 9:00, and everybody wandered off, and I was there by myself, and I didn't want to come back in the house, and that's when that dark period of mine started. Walked back in the house that night, and she wasn't here, and and fortunately, I had my little epiphany 4 months later, and here I am today. That's it. That's me.
Feeling lost or alone, struggling with unbearable trauma or addiction. Every day feels heavier than the day before. The weight of unaddressed emotions and problems can leave you paralyzed. On the One Moment podcast, we are aligned with the vision and mission of The Place to Heal. Founded in Sanford, North Carolina, The Place to Heal is a growing multi-specialty mental health and substance use practice dedicated to facilitating healing and personal development. Our team of compassionate clinicians are committed to providing evidence-based therapeutic interventions tailored to each individual's unique journey. We are passionate about empowering our clients to overcome challenges and achieve emotional wellness. The Place to Heal hosts and sponsors the One Moment podcast. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to be connected to The Place to Heal. Follow us on social media for more content,
I really like the description you gave, and so many different things that are involved in this grieving process and what you go through and how you get through it. The biggest part of it is the experience that you have, the strength that you have, and the hope that you have to share with other people so that they can also get through it. And I think it's really symbolic of a 90-year-old program that turned 90 years old this year. It is the base of every other recovering uh, programming that even exists. So the three important words: experience, strength, and hope. I see it.
Yep.
It's visual, and it's an active thing that you have to do, because otherwise you're just going to stay spiraling out of control. You'll get completely down into a sense of chaos. So nobody wants to go down that if they're real about themselves.
Yep.
They don't want to go down a road like that. And anybody that's got a
Oh,
good hint of common sense in their brain still, then they'll do the work. It's great. I just really am encouraged by so much of what you've done, Tom, to get through your grief, and it's a very powerful message to helping others.
and I'm not through it. I'm still on the journey. I'm still going on the journey. I mean, it's a little easier. The journey's a little easier day by day. Things change. I've got things to think about. Like I say, I'm doing a podcast, so I have to plan ahead and do some things there. So, and I get speaking engagements, so that keeps my life. If I wasn't doing those things, I think I would handle it, but I don't think I'd handle it as well as I am. And if I sat and watched TV all day, or watch soccer or football or something, baseball, just I think I'd have a much more difficult time handling. But I handle it now because I've got things to do with my life um, every day. So I get things to look forward to. Uh, I share with you guys. Um, Tonight, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, uh, I lost a friend here about 3 months ago, and his wife's she's doing okay, but she's struggling a little bit. Um, she finally called me, and she said, "I need your help." um, and she said, "I got a bottle of wine and some cheese and crackers. Would you come over and sit and talk to me?" Now, what I will do is, I'm not going to sit and talk to her. I'm going to listen to her. I'm going to make her talk to me. She's not going to realize that until I do it, but I'm going to be asking her questions that she has to talk about. She's not going to listen to what you guys just listened to for an hour and whatever. She's not going to listen to that. I'm going to be hearing her, and she's going to feel a lot better when I leave, because she said those things. Not what I said, but what she said, how she got it out, how she exchanged her story. So, that's the kind of thing, again, I end up doing.
Yeah, I think that's critically important, is the ability to have the self-control to sit there and listen, because listening, all the old timers in that 90-year-old thing, they always say, close your mouth, listen, and learn.
Yep.
So
Yep.
all those things put together just combine to make the solution. The solution is possible. You don't have to stay wrapped up in your situation. You can go through it, and it's amazing. It really is, because I'm not trying to compare it with that, but it's just encouraging, because the points that you're getting nailed right straight down. Good carpentry work. You have to build a good
Yep.
framework to be able to have a good covering over you, and that's what helps you through your grief, is having that covering. And I appreciate it. Thanks for
Well,
being our.
one of the phrases that I've heard, and I think this is what you were just saying, Tom, is a lot of those old timers will say, take the cotton out of your ears and put in your mouth.
Yep.
You got two ears and one mouth,
That's right.
right?
I will
Listen more than you talk.
I will be honest. I have probably heard more in the last 6 years than I heard the first 78 because I've listened. I haven't talked over the top of it. That's the other thing people do. Somebody's talking, they talk right over the top of it, or they're thinking about what they're going to say rather than listening to what the person's saying. I did that. I'll be honest. I really do. I think I've listened to more people, heard more things that are important in the last 6 or 7 years than I ever did, when I was a 40-year-old, okay? When I was trying to be the wet guy, when I was trying to get ahead. I got to get ahead of this guy and that guy. I don't care what he says. I got to be moving. I got to be ahead, I got to get that job or, those things. So once and that all happened in the hospital, I think, when she was in hospice, and I just sat there and think about all the things you did and all the stupid things you did, Yeah, and again, you can't go back, so you got to forget them. But those all go through, and maybe I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Maybe I'm going to learn from that now. Now thinking about it, I just learned something about myself that I'm going to going forward. I'm not going to do that again. So those are the kind of things that I think are important, especially for young people to learn. I'm just like I say before. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm content. I'll go do my 2 podcasts tomorrow, and my son works in the town where I don't do it, or I do it about 10 miles away. And I'll go have lunch with him afterwards, and be a nice day. So uh, those are the things I think about. So plan ahead to do. I've got a speaking engagement on Monday, so I'll check in. I'll go to the website of this place that I'm going to speak and learn a little bit about the place and what kind of people. That's the other thing. My presentation gets changed every time I go someplace because of different younger people, older people. I always change my presentation a little bit to fit the audience. So that's what I do. I get to plan ahead.
And preparation is half the battle. If you don't prepare right, then for your
Yep,
project or whatever it is going to turn out right. So being prepared is a really important thing.
that's right.
So Tom, as far as as far as our podcast is set up, we always invite our guests, or we ask our guests at the end of the episodes or towards the very end of it, if there was something that they could mostly describe as we call it a call to action. If there was a call to action that you would give to other people that are going through grief that they need help with, what would that call to action be from your experience, strength, and hope?
Well, again, going back to what we said before, and where all mine started, um, writing it down, getting the words out. Um, Journaling is probably the best thing anybody can do. I think is writing down how I feel this morning, what happened to me today. Then that begins to, at least for me, began to show me a path of what I had to do, the things where I had to learn to think about taking her with me, not leaving her behind. I had to shove those regrets out of the way. We didn't do this, we didn't do that. Oh my God, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? Can't do that. So I just think the simple fact of facing it. If you don't want to, if you don't want to journal, if you just sit in the morning and say, this is what I feel to yourself. Hey, I feel this way. And at night, this is what happened to me today, and what should I learn from that? Um, see, everybody reacts different too. Um, pictures of my wife do not bother me at all. I mean, I love to see her pictures, They don't, right? They're not a traumatic experience for me like some people. Oh, I can't do it. One of the things that this happened shortly after her death. A group of friends that went out to dinner, and I still went out to dinner with them. But they wouldn't say her name because they were afraid if they said her name, that would bother me. And I finally stood up at the table one night and I said, damn it, her name was Joyce and she died. Okay, guys? You can tell a story about her or you can mention her in your conversation. Doesn't bother me. In fact, it makes me feel good that you remember her. If you're just blocking her out saying, oh no, we can't say Joyce because Tom will get upset. No, that's not true. So those are the things that you have to learn yourself. So again, going back, I still think the easiest way to start is just to journal, just to write it down, how you feel. And I think once you start all that, then everything else will come your way. You'll find your way with it. It may be different than my way, but you'll find a way with it because you'll begin to understand. That makes sense?
It sure does. It sure does. And man, I can't tell you how much of a privilege and an honor it was to have you as our guest today. We just can
Oh, thank
continue
you. Thank you so
to
much.
we can continue to grow in more knowledge to helping other people deal with the grief that they may be going through.
So, Mr. Tom, I just want to thank you for your amazing experience, your amazing story. I am humbled by your experience. Thank you again.
If anybody wants to contact me, I have a website. It's thomaslrose.com. Just go there. My email address there. My phone's there. Call me. We'll talk.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Okay.
Absolutely. And where can
Okay.
they buy your books from?
Now, my book is on my website and it's on Amazon.
Okay.
All my books are on Amazon and they're on my website. So just go to my website or give me a call. Give me a call. I'll tell you what, go on my website, give me a call and tell me you heard it on with you guys. Okay. And I'll save them some money. How's that? I'll give them a discount.
Sounds like
Outstanding.
a plan.
Okay.
Good job.
In the heart of the city, a vision was born, not just a piece of clothing, but a movement. Vital Apparel reflects not just the raw edge of the streets, but the spirit of innovation to bring about change in mental health worldwide. It's more than a style, it's a statement, a blend of comfort with an attitude made for those who refuse to be average. Embrace the culture, ignite your passion, and wear the revolution. Discover your new favorite piece today and be part of something larger than life. Visit our link now at vtlapparel.com to grab your next outfit. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to get 15% off your order. Why support us? The founders of Vital Apparel, Hung Dao and Alex Kozub, sought out to raise awareness, seeking to change the stigma around mental health. 5% of their profits are donated to Brain Research Foundation, furthering the research in mental health. Vital Apparel sponsors the One Moment podcast. We partnered with one another so that together we can make a global impact on mental health, substance use, and suicide, saving lives one moment at a time around the world. Help us break the stigma. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.